Hello and welcome back to Sea Red UK, where quite simply is Chicago Bulls thing. This podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network. Wherever you're listening, rate, review, subscribe, helps us out and ensures you don't miss another episode. And if you're lucky enough to be watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the bell, give it a thumbs up, and leave some comments down below. And if you're not on YouTube, might as well head over. I'm Matt, and it's been a while, but as usual, joined by Neil. How are we doing, Neil?
I'm good. Glad to be back on talking Bulls and going over a few of the bits and pieces that we've skipped over during the Christmas and the New Year's. But I hope everybody out there enjoyed their Christmas. And how about you? How was your Christmas?
Busier than expected. I did put that tweet out saying that we was taking Christmas Day off, but then we somehow still ended up talking Bulls with each other and other people and stuff like that. But why not? Apart from that, it's
never off.
Been back. No. Apart from that, I've been back at work, and yeah, it's been a bit hectic. Hence why we haven't put an episode out for 2 weeks. Obviously, our last episode was with Mo. Since then, Mo's actually dropped a piece on seareduk.com. So if you haven't already, go check that out. And obviously, as you've got Happy New Year, new look for us here at Sea Red UK. And as if you are on YouTube, you can see behind Neil the new logo. Obviously, I did put the sort of tweet out and put it. Obviously, it's a bit more in depth on Facebook and stuff like that. The whole reasoning behind it. Obviously, you've mentioned a few times about having a bit of Irish in the logo.
Got to represent the country I live in.
From Milton Keynes.
I don't live there anymore. I haven't lived there for more than half my life.
Don't even get me started on Milton Keynes. Anyway, yeah, roundabout after roundabout. Anyway, so obviously that's where, obviously behind your whatever shoulder it is, I don't know which way we switched here. The Irish flag makes an appearance. Obviously, we've still got the Union Jack. We've got the red eyes on the bull for Sea Red. The sort of steely look to the bull, I think, kind of shows what sort of determination we need to follow this team the way we do. You know, getting up at 1 o'clock, and at the minute it's on the back of a back-to-back as well, which we don't like. And obviously the microphones to highlight this very podcast.
Yep.
So there it is. New year, new look, new logo. I think it's been quite well appreciated so far.
It seems to be well received. I hope so. We spent enough time kind of trying to figure out how to get it right. So and neither of us are design professionals or anything, although you do get plenty of practice with the socials. But I think we managed to throw about probably somewhere between 50 and 100 different designs at each other before we finalised on the one we did.
Yeah, including on Christmas Day when we were having a day off. But that's the sort of effort we put in because we've got nothing else to do, pretty much.
Well, kids, wives, escape from all the stuff we're meant to be doing, I think is more to the point.
So obviously on to the Bulls talk. Now, we're not going to cover every game that we haven't covered in this 2-week period. Obviously it started with that win over Lakers, which was just fantastic because it's a win over the Lakers. We've seen a couple of losses start sneaking in. Obviously there was the one against Cavs, springs to mind because we kind of expected, or not expected to win it, but when you looked at who they had missing, you kind of thought, you know. Then obviously we lost to Pacers as well, which, you know, Pacers are on a bit of a tear, aren't they? So obviously the highlight of that was the fact that we came back into it from, was it 20 whatever points it was down. And then obviously we beat Sixers again. And
without Embiid.
Yeah, whatever. We beat them with Embiid as well, so who cares?
Well, We did one.
And then obviously into this week, we were going to record the start of this week, but obviously our schedules got in the way, and then the Bull schedule got in the way because obviously, like I say, it's been a back-to-back. They lost to Sixers, they lost to Knicks, and it's kind of sent Bulls Nation into a bit of a spiral again after we were on a bit of a high, and then we're now on, or some, shall I say, are on a bit of a low. Not Billy Donovan, if you listen to that podcast and his laugh.
Oh, this is something to behold. I mean, I hadn't seen it until just before we jumped onto the pod, and Matt showed it to me. And for anyone that hasn't seen it, go and check out our Twitter because Matt's just put it up on there. He's just reposted it. This thing's brilliant. Will I play it? Here, let's play it. Let's. This, for anybody that doesn't recognize it, is Billy Donovan laughing on another podcast. What was the podcast?
The OG show, or something. I think it's Udonis Haslem in it.
So here we go. Nothing can prepare you for this. I can tell you that much.
Damn, Mike. You sure about that? You sure you can do this? I can get this.
That is just absolutely brilliant. So just in case you randomly hear that laugh dropped in from here until the rest of the season, you know where it came from. You know who it came from. It's not just some random laugh I'll throw in there. But I just absolutely love that. Yeah, it's brilliant.
So, yeah, obviously, like I say, some of Bulls Nation are on the low, especially with Billy. Billy, clearly not that low with that laugh. So, I guess, like I say, we're not going to cover the games, but we probably will go back to some of them for parts of it and stuff like that. But I guess the question is, where are you at with this Bulls team currently?
That's a pretty good question, actually, and not that black and white to answer. Like, I try not to get too caught up in the roller coaster ride of Bulls Nation and being a Bulls fan too much, because it does tend to go to these crazy highs when things are going well and these crazy dips when things are going badly. I try to kind of stay somewhere in the middle. So in saying that, what I reckon is that this team is neither as good as it was looking or as bad as people are panicking about. And we'll get more into a big part of why I think it's going to kind of get a little bit better and more stabilized later on in the show. But in regards to the way it was, like, I mean, Kobe was shooting lights out and now he's not. Although he did shoot a little bit better last night. I mean, he's just been like, we've always referred to him as a bit of a microwave scorer, and what basically happened was he just stretched it out for a longer period of time, but that's also then become a longer period of time where he hasn't been shooting well. What we need is more consistency out of Kobe, and I think that will come. But the big bonus with Kobe White right now, and the big plus with him, is even though his shooting has not been what we wanted it to be, particularly from distance, he's still having a massive effect on the game. Whereas this time last year or the year before, I certainly would be sitting here saying, if Kobe can't shoot, he's no good to you. It's a big part of the reason why I was on for letting him leave the Bulls and trading him. But now Kobe is way more valuable than that. And he's being played that way, of course, by other teams, which is also what's making it harder for him to score. But Kobe is still having an effect on the game with his penetration, with his passing, with the way he's drawing the defense to him, creating open spaces, moving the ball around. And he's finishing at the rim. Last night, his two-handed dunk was stunning. But yeah, his finishing around the rim has been so much more impressive. But the big point, and this is the biggest point to Kobe, is he's now a defensive threat. And that is, I mean, so valuable to this team right now, to have someone that can space the floor and defend, even if he's not putting his shots down.
Yeah. obviously before we had our little break, it did start, or we did start getting this new look, if that's how you want to describe it, Bulls team.
Yeah.
And obviously it's hard not to get excited by it, and it's that classic thing of they're giving us that little bit of hope.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at the losses that we've took, apart from possibly the Pacers one, they're probably teams you expected us to lose against. And I think even at the minute, Pacers are a team you'd expect us to lose against, because we did last year when we had a full team. And what people seem to be forgetting at the minute, like I say, the ones who are on this little spiral at the minute, is they're doing it tough at the minute. No Zach, which we're going to get onto later on.
Yeah.
No Vooch, which he played all 82 games last year.
Right.
Torrey Craig went down for, 10 weeks that he's meant to be out for?
Yeah.
That's a big loss. And I don't think people quite understand how big a loss that is, especially coupled with Vooch and Zach being out.
Yeah.
P. Will, not 100%. Obviously, with this ankle injury, on and off the IR. Caruso, constantly on and off the IR. Kobe, playing through this wrist injury, does his ankle against Sixers. So that loss against Knicks last night, I mean, it's going to be a tough game if we're at full strength. But when you're depleted in the way they are, and obviously there's a lot of negativity, again, coming towards Billy at the minute, what's Billy supposed to do? The roster's not constructed that well in the first place.
No.
You take half of the roster out, at the minute we've got, what is it, 80 plus million sat on the sidelines between sort of Lonzo, Zach, Vooch, and obviously Torrey Craig with his little bit of on there as well. So everyone complaining at the minute that he's gone small ball and stuff like that. It's, what is he meant to do? He's basically using what he's got. And so the losses that we've took, I'm not too downhearted by, in a way, not the way I would have been normally. And I've actually enjoyed watching them play majority of the time. Because we've been given the chance to see other players, basically. Like Drummond, for example, at 24 points, 25 rebounds against Hawks.
Incredible.
We wouldn't have seen that if Vooch hadn't have gone down injured.
No, definitely not.
If Zach, I mean, obviously aside from the trade stuff, but if Zach hadn't have gone out, we wouldn't have seen what we've seen from Kobe. And if Torrey Craig didn't go out, we wouldn't have seen what we've seen from Dalen Terry, which is splitting Bulls Nation. And possibly P. Will. I think he's probably benefited from Torrey Craig, not because he's had to, basically. He's had to step up. And so at the minute, I'm, losing. I hate losing, regardless of how the team is doing anyway. But I'm not too downhearted by the losses, and I've enjoyed what we have seen in probably bigger than small doses, but not to the point where I believe we're going to get in the playoffs or anything like that, because change still needs to happen. We know that. Change is going to happen.
Yeah.
We hope. And it's kind of, it's a bit exciting in a way, because we've now got this little bit of hope that we have got this young core that can play, and there's going to be changes. It's just, you kind of want it to happen now, but we know it's not going to happen now, or not straight away anyway. Majority of changes. So, like I say, it's given us a chance to see this young core, and the fact that a lot of Bulls Nation are still calling these players out as well. That's what I don't, like you see all the time. Terry Taylor should never get another minute. What is he supposed to? What's Billy supposed to do? He's literally got, obviously, we've got Sanogo there, which we'll get into in a minute. But the end of the day, what Terry Taylor's done is he's took his opportunity, and I think he's been all right.
Yeah.
It's not his fault he's 6'5" and been asked to play centre, which we know Billy loves to do.
Mm-hmm.
But moving forward, when Torrey Craig's back, Vooch is back, to me, there's no reason why Terry Taylor goes and sits at the end of the bench and doesn't get any more minutes, because he's shown what he can do. And this is like going to the whole Sonogo thing. There's other podcasters and stuff like that sort of sarcastically sort of getting at Bulls Nation for, oh, Sonogo's a saviour and blah blah blah. Now I've said for a long time I want to see Sonogo get minutes, and it's not because I think he's a game changer, but we don't know what we've got until we see it. And I think that's what the likes of Terry Taylor, Sonogo, and all that are doing at the minute, is showing us what they can do.
Yeah.
If they're given the opportunity. And, you know, to me, obviously I've been out on this team for a long time, and as daft as it sounds, the way they've been playing, they've kind of drawn me back in, which I wasn't expecting at all, especially with the Zach news and stuff like that. So, I mean, so what? I know obviously you're loving what P. Will's done, but what about the other players then that had to step up, basically?
Yeah, I think that, like you say, that there's, apart from Kobe and perhaps P. Will to some degree as well, there haven't been any earth-shattering performances by other players. Yeah, Drummond gave us that 24-25. That was pretty impressive. But then the next game he went out and he was almost non-existent, got early fouls again, you know, and that seems to be the big issue with Drummond. If Drummond gets into early foul trouble, he's done in his head. He checks out in his own head. He starts playing crazy, which we know he's more than capable of doing. You know, we're always saying embrace the chaos. Well, sometimes we're also saying it's time for the chaos to sit down for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And Billy doesn't really have that option too much to sit him the way he did before when he had Vooch. So what I think has come out of that is we need to see more minutes for Drummond, but he's not a starting center over Vooch when Vooch comes back, right? Moving on then to DT. I think DT has given us some solid minutes, some energy minutes. Please, God, don't let him shoot another three. But I do like his defensive prowess. I like his energy. And he's a real kind of throw him in there, let him create some energy, some
Chaos.
plays, some craziness for a few minutes, and then sit him back down again and throw him in again for another few minutes just to lift the morale, lift the spirit, get it going. That's what DT's kind of there as in my well, that's my take on him anyway.
Yeah. See, I just to jump in because I did want to talk about Dalen.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've never been completely out on him. I think I actually had him in our pre-season predictions as the most improved player.
Right.
And it goes back to kind of how I think about P. Will, in the fact that if you've got certain expectations, then you can't be as disappointed. Now, everybody wants every player that comes into the NBA to be able to shoot. And it's like, yeah, I get it. It's a big part of the game.
Yeah.
But what do you want? Robots? You know what I mean? It's Lonzo Ball couldn't shoot when he first came into the league. His shot was horrible.
Yeah, completely readjusted his shot.
You know, DT's in his second year, and he's what, 21?
Yeah.
So he's got plenty of time to work on it. I mean, that Sixers the Sixers game, he airballed it twice, didn't he?
Twice, yeah. He took 3 shots, missed one, and airballed 2, wasn't it?
Yeah. And do you think Peter Patton sat there watching that and going, "Well, that was all right," or do you think he's going to say, "Dalen, you know, this is what you did wrong. This is where your shot is wrong," and do you think Dalen's going to go, "Yeah, whatever," or do you think he's going to get back on the floor and start practicing?
Yeah.
But like you said, what he does bring, and I'll go back to how I described him when I first sort of saw him, was like I wish Lonzo Ball crossed with Javonte Green, because he's got the energy of Javonte Green, but he'll do everything that Lonzo Ball does. He'll shoot it. Not you don't particularly want him to shoot it, but he will shoot it. He'll rebound it. His defense, was it again in the Sixers game where he pushed Caruso into position?
Mhm.
You know, that's him standing behind all team NBA, defensive NBA, whatever it is, first team. Yeah, pushing him where he should be. You know what I mean? So that's, to me, good defensive IQ.
Mhm.
And I'm sure Caruso didn't mind.
Oh
You know
no.
what I mean? And, you know, I can't remember exactly what he got against Sixers, but I think it was something like 6 points, 8 rebounds, and a couple of steals and a block, something like that.
Mhm.
And if he can give you that in 15 minutes, his shot's going to come at some point.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, I'm happy with him giving us that in 15 minutes. Because, like you said, he's also lifting the spirits, he's lifting the energy. And the bit that I'm most impressed with him is his attitude, is the goon that he brings. Like against Pacers, where he dunked on Matherin, then stood over him, staring at him, and then flexed on him.
Yeah.
Nobody on the Bulls does that, because they're all too nice. And you can be friends with people. You know, he went to college with Matherin.
Yeah.
So you can be friends with people, but for 48 minutes, you're not friends, basically, because you're out there to win. And that's what I want to see from my players. I want to see them want to win. We saw it with Torrey Craig against, was it Nuggets, where he said to Vooch, don't talk to him. And that was aimed at Joker. And it's like, because he knows they're good friends, but for that 48 minutes, you're not. You're enemies. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I think Dalen brings, is that, not nastiness, but that aggression kind of thing. You know, that
Definitely.
I liked him a little bit to Pat Bev. You know, because that's what Pat Bev does. He irritates. We saw it in the Lakers game where he blatantly showed no respect to LeBron, because he was in his face. All right, yeah, LeBron got the shot to fall, but Dalen Terry didn't make it easy for him. He didn't stand off him. He didn't go, "Oh, it's LeBron, I'll let him get his shot." He was in his jersey pretty much. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we need. And as I always say, if he makes a mistake, sit him, let him talk to DeMar, whoever it is on the bench. You know, if Torrey Craig's there, let him talk to Torrey Craig. Put him back in. Don't just sit him. That's where I'm at with these sort of the younger players anyway, and in particular Dalen.
Yeah, and I agree with all that. And see, one of the things that we've been crying out for as Bulls fans for years is developing players, and we know it's not something that has been a very prominent culture in the Chicago Bulls organization. And it's good to see, whether it by fair means or foul, it's good to see that is now becoming a bit of a trend, developing these younger guys, giving them minutes because they have to, but also the fact that they've brought in, like Peter Patton and his crew to try and develop players and improve shooting and all those areas and facets of the game that need to be looked at, honed in on, and perfected, or at least improved. And that excites me. And seeing that has been just a wonder to behold, because it's not something that we've seen really for a very, very, very long time. I mean, let's be honest, right? When Zach said that he was looking to be traded and then was on the injury list almost straight away, very shortly after, DeMar was on the injury list with him, then Vooch was on the injury list. Did you honestly, and did anyone honestly think at that point in time, right, we're going to go on a tear now and start winning games?
Yeah.
Nobody did. And the great thing about that is it's being done by the future of the team, not the current core that we've built around, but by the young guys that are still developing. They still haven't reached their ceilings. We still don't even know what they're capable of. And yet they've gone out, they've completely transformed the way this Bulls team has been playing, and came out with a couple of wins, a couple of losses too, but a couple of big, good wins that we would not have anticipated happening. and that excites me. And that's why when it comes to players like Dalen, Phillips, Sonogo, even Bittim, even though he's not got any minutes yet, he's still suffering with a facial injury, isn't he?
Yeah.
But these players need to see minutes. Now, they're not going to become game changers. They're not going to suddenly become the next Kobe White in the way they just suddenly take a massive leap. But what they are going to do is they're going to build and build and build upon their game, upon their minutes, upon their experience, and upon the way that they are able to step onto the floor. Because if they're going on there with a little bit more confidence than they did the last time, the chances are they're going to play better each time they step on the floor. Whether it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes, I'm all for it. Like I say, I know Sonogo has been getting a real attack from some people. You know, why is he's not the be all and the end all? Yeah, we know that. We all know that. Or anyone that doesn't know that, sit down for yourself. Because we do know that. But what we want to see is while we're in this situation that we're in, give them the minutes now. Let them develop. Let them take this opportunity to grow. And then take that back with them to the training sessions. Take that back with them to Windy City if needs be. Build on it. And they might not necessarily be something this year or next year, but it all leads towards them maybe becoming a bit of a better player in the future.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, obviously, the thing is, we're doing it, like I said, we're doing it tough at the minute. You know, these players, whether it's Phillips, Terry, Sonogo, Terry Taylor, whoever it happens to be, they're getting thrown into a tough situation.
Yeah.
Now, that said, there is change coming, hopefully. If they build a better roster, these players have got minutes when it's been tough. What would they do with minutes when things are going well?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I always say it to you, and it pains me to say it, but look at Miami Heat. They throw these G League guys in just any time of the season. And whether they play well, play poorly, whatever it is, they play again. And you look at, I can't remember his first name, but is it Highsmith, the centre? When Adebayo was out injured, he was their starting centre. They've got Thomas Bryant there, who, you know, he's been moved around the league and stuff like that. But he was keeping him out of that starting lineup. And he's come from, I don't even know where he's come from. I don't know if he's come through the G League system or what. But, and I'm not saying that's going to work with every player that we've just spoke about.
No.
But the thing why I want to see him play is because we are doing it tough. Kobe is getting far too many minutes at the minute. DeMar's getting far too many minutes because obviously they're having to, basically.
Yeah.
But do they have to? Do you know what I mean? Because why not put Dalen Terry in for the point guard or the two guard, whatever, for more minutes? Why not put Julian Phillips out there for more minutes? Because it's the only way they're going to learn. At the end of the day, nobody's got any expectations for this team as it is. So let's see what they can do. You know, let's see what they can do. And the thing that I don't like is the fact that they've had Sonogo there, and initially he got 30 seconds, and it was basically go stand out there, watch the clock count down, and that was it.
Got to stand on the spot. Yeah.
Then when we saw him against Sixers, it was in garbage time, but he didn't disappoint. He went out and he did what he was supposed to do. But them games where he hasn't been playing, Windy City have been playing. So if Billy had no intention of playing him, why not just send him back down to Windy City? Because the only way they're going to develop is getting minutes.
Yeah.
And that's the same with Julian Phillips. The amount he's gone a few games where he's been a DMP or 30 seconds or whatever. But then when he got his chance against Sixers the other night, he impressed me. I mean, I think he only scored something like 7 points, but he hit a three. He was getting to the rim, but it was what he was doing on the defensive end. And people seem too focused on these players scoring points, which, we need them to, obviously.
Yeah.
But they can bring something else to the team. You know what I mean? They can, as we said with Dalen Terry, he can just be a defensive pest.
Yeah.
You know, and what it does is it allows the likes of Kobe to have an extra 2 minutes on the bench, you know, recover, you know, and I'll get into that a bit later on when we start talking about Zach. But I said back in pre-season, if Kobe's going to be Billy's first choice at point guard, which obviously seemed to be in pre-season and obviously proved to be, why was he playing so many minutes in pre-season? Because it's now continued on, and he's basically playing through that injury, and it's kind of having a bit of a derogatory effect on his game.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've still been, even though his shot's fallen off, I've still been impressed with him because he's been doing everything else. He's still getting the rebounds, he's still getting the assists, he's still getting to the rim, he's still putting up 20 points a night, even though his shot hasn't been falling. But if he was getting more rest, if he maybe even sat a game or two where, you know, his wrists maybe that a little bit sore, how much better would he be? Do you know what I mean? And so when people are saying, you know, other podcasters and that are saying, oh, Sonogo's not the saviour, Phillips isn't the saviour, you know, all this sort of stuff, it's like, that's not what people are saying when they're saying play him. We're just saying use what you've got, Billy. You know, and to a degree, that's what Billy is doing. You know, I'm not going to slate Billy at all for what he's doing at the minute, because I think he's doing the best job he can. But, you know, obviously we're getting to a point where certain players are potentially coming back. To me, the most important one is Vooch, before we get on to the other one, because the offense has gone very stale. The last, is it 5 games he's missed now?
Yeah.
You know, and Vooch frustrates the hell out of me. Anybody who listens to this knows that. But we are missing him. You know, we're not necessarily at the defensive end, but because it was so I can't remember the exact stat, but the amount of like hockey assists that he gets and assists in general that he gets, you know, it's just that extra bit of movement on the offense, you know. And for anyone that's sort of saying start Drummond over Vooch, no. You know, I love Drummond and I love what he's done. He's stepped up. Fair play to him. But what I do want to see from it is Drummond get more minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And before we move on to other returning players, I just want your opinion on somebody who has been there, and that's DeMar DeRozan.
I think DeMar has been great, to be honest. I was worried about him coming back into the rotation once he was out and we were playing well. But he seems to have completely and utterly embraced this new role within the way the system is working. He is certainly not playing ISO half as much as he was. And what I'm finding is that when he does then play ISO, it's more effective. It's kind of back the way it was a couple of years ago. He's distributing the ball well. He's creating space for his teammates by drawing defenses. And he's actually been more tuned in on the defensive side of the ball as well. I've been very impressed with DeMar. And I actually love the way he's slotted back into the system.
Yeah. And like you said, it's the defensive end where he's impressed me. They've got this new thing, aren't they? This hammer or something that goes around.
He wants that hammer. He wants to keep it.
Well, exactly. And I'm all for it. I think it was Bulls Kick-Ass put something out on Twitter the other day. I think it was like the December stats, and it was like which player stands out the most for you. And obviously people were saying, oh, you know, P. Will with his points, Kobe with his points. And I said for me, it was DeMar DeRozan, his facilitating and his defense.
Yeah.
You know DeMar's going to put up points. you know that Damar's going to go ISO when it's needed.
Yeah.
And it is still needed. As much as people don't want to see it, from time to time, it is still needed. But what he's doing on the side of that is he's now got the facilitating. You know, we've seen him put up like 10 assists in games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's taking charges. You may not want to see him take charges, but he's doing it. And I think it was his steals as well that was.
Yeah, he's getting in the passing lane a lot more.
Yeah, and to me that says he's adapting his game to what this Bulls team need because he wants to win.
Right.
And I've said it before, when I asked you the question of what's going to be a successful season, I don't want to see Kobe, P. Will, Terry, Dalen Terry, whatever, get into a habit of losing because look at Pistons. And that's why to me it's important that vets like DeMar are still around because they won't let the team get into that, or they will work and do whatever they can to make sure the team gets out of it. If, we've just lost 2 games on the bounce, DeMar's not going to like that. And I want that to pass down to Kobe and P. Will, that to come out against Hornets tomorrow night and destroy them, basically. That because that's the mentality that you want to see in your players. So obviously we're going to have to talk about it as much as we probably don't. But as my thing says, we're back, and it's trending that Zach is coming back.
Yep.
Obviously, he was assigned to Windy City Bulls at the start of the week for practice. As much as Twitter went into meltdown and he was like, "I'll leave him there" and all that sort of crap. Obviously, as the week's gone on, you've heard more and more that he's on the verge of returning, possibly tomorrow. Obviously, we've got 2 games against Hornets. I can't remember the next one is, I think, Monday night or Tuesday night. I can't remember now. So chances are we're going to see him play one of them games, if not just return altogether. Now, I know what your opinion on Zach was before all of this.
Yeah.
I have said, slightly tongue-in-cheek and slightly serious, I guess, in a couple of these games, we need Zach. I think it was the Cavs game and the Pacers game where I said it, because we needed that scoring. The big question is, if Zach is going to return, can he fit into this system? Can he adapt his game to play the way this Bulls team have been playing?
Right. And that is the big elephant in the room, isn't it? And okay, let me break it down a little bit.
Is this going to be a long one?
Me? Never. No. I'll give you the condensed 45-minute version. Right. Okay. Zach LaVine is and has been for his career an elite scorer. Okay. He started this season shooting the worst of his career, other than I think after his ACL, right? And he wasn't looking good. Now, whether it's because he was checked out, whether it was because his belief in the system or his belief in his team was gone, whether it was the injury that was plaguing him, I don't know. But whatever it was, for whatever reason or multitude of reasons, he wasn't the elite scorer that we know that he is. This team needs scoring right now. We have that on the bench. He's meant to be getting healthy, so the injury should no longer be an issue if that was the issue. The question is whether or not he will buy back into this system for however long he is still a Bull, right? Now, do I think he's capable of doing it? Absolutely. He's talked about wanting to be a winner. He's talked about wanting to be part of a system that works. He's seen in his absence, because he hasn't been at home twiddling his thumbs, playing with his child and his baby to be.
Well,
He has been at, well, maybe a little bit. He has been at the games, right?
he's got a pregnant, so
Right? He has been at the games, but the question is whether or not the little show that he's putting on, where he's giving the guys fives and he's giving them hugs and he's like looking like he's cheering them on, is that genuine, or is that just to look like he's still part of this team? If it's genuine, what I'm hoping is that he has now looked at it and gone, okay, I realize now why what I was doing wasn't resulting in wins. And I'm hoping that he has the professionalism to step back into this Bulls team, which at one point I didn't think would ever happen again, and know that it's him that needs to adjust to the system and not the system that needs to adjust to him. And I'm hoping that that arrogance that was there, and that's not a critique, because all elite basketball players have a certain level of arrogance and need it. But that level of arrogance needs to just come down a little bit and realize, okay, I only need to be that guy when the team needs me to be that guy. And the rest of the time, we work together, we work in the system, and we make this happen the same way as DeMar has done, and the same way that I believe Vooch would do if he comes back into, or when he comes back in. So as far as I'm concerned, it all comes down to Zach and his own head and his own decision-making on where he wants to be. But the big question is, if he doesn't, and he comes back and he doesn't play well, and he goes back on his tear of throwing the ball up when there's nobody there to rebound it, and not shooting well but keep shooting it, losing the ball in the clutch moments, all he's doing is hurting his own chances of getting a better deal to get out of Chicago. And I hope he sees that. And if he does see that, it's going to benefit the Bulls regardless. Because if he buys into the system for his own out, that still benefits the team. If he buys into the system because he's decided, actually, I like it here and the way it's going for however long it goes for, that still benefits the team. So as far as I'm concerned, it's all on Zach. It's all at his feet. It's just up to him to do it. That wasn't too long, was it?
No. Yeah, I'm a bit sort of split with it all. You know, I said from the start I didn't want to see it turn nasty with Zach.
Yeah.
And I think it crept in a little bit, but it hasn't gone that bad.
No.
And I think a lot of that is down to Zach. You know, at the start, people were saying, "Oh, he's not celebrating the wins and stuff like that." Yet, when you looked at a different video, he was, and it just seemed to be it was what people wanted to believe, what people wanted to see. People wanted to see Zach saying, "I want out of Chicago." And credit to Zach, he's never said he wants out of Chicago. He's just basically said, "I want to play wherever I am." You know, whether that's in Chicago or wherever. We've heard the different reports that the relationship between him and Billy is done. Yet we've also heard Billy come out and say, credit to Zach, he's remained professional, he's been around the team, he's been in the locker room, he's rehabbed around the team. Completely different injury, I know, but we haven't seen Lonzo courtside.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so obviously that's a different type of rehab. And Zach could quite easily have took the James Harden route and said, I don't want to be anywhere near the team. There's my trade request. If you're not going to do it, I'm not going to turn up. But he hasn't. Whether that's all part of the game, part of the plan,
could be.
Who knows? I think at some point Zach is going to leave. Obviously, you hear the different reports that there's no market out there for him. People know what Zach is before all of this started. So if a team wanted him, they're still going to want him.
Mhm.
But by Zach now potentially coming back and playing for Bulls, he has got to go out there and be the best version of himself. I'm not going to say be Zach, because that's not what the team needs. That's not what any team wants. He has to show he can fit into this system. He has to show that he can still score 25 points a night. But when it's not falling for him, give it to Kobe. Give it to DeMar.
Yeah.
As you said, that's what DeMar's done. And I mentioned it to you yesterday about the last episode of Bulls Talk with Kendall Gill.
Mhm.
And he said sometimes it can be down to the coaching. The coach has basically got to turn around and say, we need a bucket. Go out there and get us 3. Get them 3 buckets. Right. Calm it back down. Play the team game. And if Billy can get Zach to buy into that, Zach can easily get 3 buckets.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, if Zach's cooking, do you want to sit him basically, or tell him to calm down? Do you know what I mean? Because you ride the hot hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where this sort of this blend's got to work. And the thing what I don't want to see now though is if he does come back, the blend works. That's it. Bulls don't look at trading him.
Which
because
could happen.
Because we know it's not going to work long term. It might work short term because it's that little boost that the team need. Zach's trying to still get his trade. 2 months down the line, I still don't want to be here. I still don't like Billy. Whatever it is. But I'm excited and I'm interested to see what does happen with it.
Me too.
Because if you was a fan of Lakers, Kings, whoever it is, and they said, right, we've just traded for Zach LaVine, would you be excited by Zach LaVine coming to your team?
Yeah, I would. I think so.
So surely you've got to be excited by the return of Zach LaVine to your team.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I look at it anyway. And like I said, I've never had anything against Zach. But we need to see the old Zach, but we need to see a new Zach, if that makes sense.
New and improved.
Yeah. And I think it's going to hurt him sitting on the sidelines.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with everything that goes on the socials and the fact that we know Zach wants to be a winning player. And he's just basically watched this team get cut apart basically with injuries and yet still be able to win.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not been part of it. And I think that could be the kick to his ego that Bulls need, basically. And possibly Zach needs to get the trade that he wants.
Yeah, absolutely. It could all work in his favour. And like I said, vicariously, then it works in the favour of the team.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, I've got no real expectations for this team at the minute. And it was exciting when we're the 11th seed. At the minute, we were 10th seed. Mm-hmm. And you're looking at the games of the teams above, like Nets, and thinking, they've just lost. Mm-hmm. We're getting a win. We could end up in that play-in. And I would be happy to be in the play-in. Because as we've said before, we don't want to be down the bottom. We don't want to be tanking. Because at the minute, we're seeing these young players kind of develop, kind of show us where we're going with it. So why do you want to tank, get rid of all your vets, and then bring in a number 4 pick in the draft? Mm-hmm. That you're basically starting again, and then have another 2 years of mediocrity or less, basically. So to me, because I've got no expectations, I'm just excited by the fact that if Zach does come back and Zach plays well, where does that put the team, ready for next year? Because I'm still confident that change is going to come. Mm-hmm. And what people seem to forget is this has been life without Zach, not life after Zach through
Yes.
December.
Yes.
It's shown us what this team can do without Zach. If it was life after Zach, it would have probably helped us a lot more, to be honest, because we've been a man down.
Mhm.
If the trade, whatever trade it was, I know some trades can't go through till next week or the week after, but just using the Lakers one that keeps getting thrown around, D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura. If that trade had happened at the start of December, if it could have happened, obviously, you've got D'Angelo Russell that can help Kobe. I'm not saying you start him,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying he'd be completely happy coming off the bench, but he could have allowed Kobe to sit for a bit longer, to miss a game or two, whatever. If we'd have got Rui Hachimura in, it's not as bad seeing Torrey Craig go down. So that would have been life after Zach, because the team is more set for what we've just been through. And that's why I still think a trade is going to happen. I think a trade has to happen. But if it happens next week, the week after, the deadline, or the off season, I'm still excited to see where this team's going at the minute. And that's something I haven't felt with this team for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into whether DeMar leaves, Caruso leaves, all that sort of stuff, because that's just going to keep dragging on and on and on as well. So yeah, I don't know if you've got anything else.
No, I'm just interested to see how it develops. The waiting time is getting smaller and smaller, and will we even see any change at all? We may not. In regards to the roster,
Yeah.
I still think we will, like yourself. The question is going to be what kind of and what level of change are we going to see? I was more kind of on for wanting to see players come in instead of picks.
Yeah.
I wasn't valuing the picks, but after seeing the way the younger players have played in the absence of Vooch, DeMar, and Zach primarily, I'm actually a little bit more interested in picks now than I was, because those players have survived and stayed afloat in the absence of the big three or big one or big two or whatever. And if we could get a couple of good pieces through picks, it's extending the future lifespan of this team and makes it a bit of a less of a win now prospect, which is what we've been kind of used to seeing. And that could then set in motion a new culture within the Bulls organization of bringing players through, a little bit like you were saying with the Heat, bringing players through the system that way, as opposed to trying to make trades and bring players through. And that's not something that excited me before, because I was so afraid of stripping it back. What would we be left with? But now we've kind of seen it stripped back. It's a small enough sample size, but still, what, 10 to 15 games? And it doesn't look that bad.
Mm.
It's certainly survivable. It's not going to be trash to watch. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, when our team has been at full strength, there's been plenty of trash games to watch. So, yeah, so I'm actually a little bit more intrigued by picks than I was before. I know some people get really hung up on the picks, and that was not something that used to happen to me. But yeah, it interests me a little bit more to get picks now than it did.
Yeah, I'm still not on board with picks. Until one develops into the franchise player, then yeah.
Kobe's trying.
Yeah, I think he pretty much is the franchise player at the minute. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, as we finish most episodes, predictions for the upcoming games. I'll only do the next two, because I think we might do an episode before the one after that. I don't know yet.
Yeah, we should hopefully get one done now that we're
Yeah,
back into more of a routine.
Yeah, so obviously we've got Hornets at the UC tomorrow, and then Hornets in Charlotte on, I think it's Monday. I can't
Yeah.
remember. Now, I said to you at the start of the week, we lose against Sixers, we lose against Knicks, and then we beat Hornets twice.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going. And if
Yeah,
Zach's back tomorrow, Zach's going to be the POG player of the game.
Ooh, hot take. Okay. Well, I'd said split the last two games. I think I said lose to Sixers and win against the Knicks, which up until halftime was a possibility, and then it went horribly wrong. So yeah, that's that. But the two Hornets games, yeah, I think we should. There's no reason why we shouldn't take both games, unless it just falls apart drastically. If Zach does come back, that could potentially happen, or like you say, he could shoot lights out. I'm wondering if he's going to come back on a minutes limitation.
Yeah, I'd have thought to start maybe.
Yeah, which is pretty likely, which may hinder his progress in the first couple of games. But I'm actually going to say that Kobe finds form again and starts nailing those threes. And I'm going to say that I reckon he'll get player of the game.
Yeah. Obviously, we do tend to struggle from time to time against Hornets, so there is still that possibility.
Yeah, but they're not at full strength either.
No. And like I said at the start, or some point, I think it's more important we get Vooch back than Zach at this point. So hopefully, I mean, there's been nothing said about Vooch. I don't know, sort of updates, has there?
No, I think they were expecting some sort of an update today. I think Will Gottlieb was saying that on last night's THGO.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anything come out to this point yet.
And again, is he going to be on a bit of a minutes restriction, which isn't now a problem because we've seen what Drummond can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. It was obviously first one back to get us back on the mics and in the flow of it. So thanks for listening. Thanks for bearing with us. And yeah, as I say, I think we'll be back maybe Tuesday next week, Wednesday, something like that.
Yeah,
depending on our schedules. And yeah, as always, I've been Matt. Thanks for listening. And you can find me on Twitter at MattCRedUK. And you can find us on all the socials with our new logo at CRedUK.
And you can find me on Twitter at NeilCRedUK. On behalf of us both and the Fans First Sports Network, thanks once again to everyone for tuning in, whether you're watching or listening. Please do subscribe, rate and review and give us the thumbs up on YouTube. It does help us to keep coming with all this great content. And from us both, do remember it's a Chicago Bulls thing wherever you are in the world. Until next time, see red people and go Bulls.